Yeah, get your food ready. Get your food ready. Get your food ready. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Just want to talk about a couple things today. Couple of news headlines or articles pertaining to food. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. First of all, if you haven't already, if you like the content, please like, share, subscribe, and once again, as always, please comment. Your opinions are welcome. It doesn't matter if you agree or disagree with me. That's okay. As long as you keep it respectful, I'm perfectly fine. Completely respectful. No demeaning or smearing of anyone. Perfectly fine with that. We're meant to disagree because we're all different. But at the same time, I believe in putting yourself around like-minded people. So that's just me. But hey, let's look at a couple of things. First of all, I'm looking at some news articles, and it's really hard. And the reason why is because all of these things they either go one way or the other. There's never really any down the middle. Either they're leaning completely for something or they're leaning completely against something. There's really no, like, very few, if any, media outlets, you know, are kind of just right down the middle. There's kind of neutral. They put the info out and let the people decide. You really just don't see that much anymore. So it's kind of hard. But with that in mind, as you know, food prices have gone up, inflation is still here. Um, and I don't know if I have the news article up right now, but if I if I don't, I'll actually put it in the next video. But there are people saying that basically inflation is going to actually be could possibly be worse in 2023. So with that in mind, I would think that we need to start getting prepared for 2023 right now, even though we're still right smack dab in the middle of 2022. But what's actually that is probably the best time to start preparing for the next year. When you're smack dab in the middle of the current year, that's the perfect time to start preparing for the next year. I know it's easier said than done, time, energy, finances, whatever. I know it's hard, but we have to start doing it. But let's look at a couple of things here. Do you mind if I share some things with you? Cool. All right. Let's look at this. I'm going to share this here with you. Stefanik bill, and this is actually courtesy of Fox News. Stefanik bill prevents foreign adversaries from targeting U.S. agriculture industry amid global food shortage. Now, this is something. This should tell you a lot. Let's leave it at that. This bill here, I don't know if it's a bill or proposed bill, but it should tell you a lot about what's going on right now. Goes on to say exclusive. House Republicans led by Representative Elise Stefanik, and I hope I'm getting her last name, pronouncing her last name properly, are turning attention to the power that the enemies of the U.S. have to exploit vulnerabilities in the agriculture industry by introducing new legislation to prevent adversaries' acquisition of American companies amid a global supply chain food shortage. So basically, what she's saying is we don't want our adversaries to come over here and take advantage of us right now while we're in the midst of a global, supply chain food shortage, which we know that happens. Um, so many adversaries, they catch you in your weakest moment or one of your weakest moments or your perceived weakest moments and try to take advantage of it. That's been going on throughout history forever. Stephanie, who serves as the House Republican Conference Chair, was joined by Representative Rick Crawford, Republican Arkansas, in introducing the bill Thursday. Quote, food security is national security, and I am proud to stand up against our foreign adversaries as they attempt to exploit any potential vulnerability and assert control over our agriculture industry, unquote, Stefanik told Fox News Digital. Yeah, I'm glad someone's looking at it that way. I mean, we the people, I mean, we see it, but it's nice to know that at least some politicians see it also, that there's a weakness there and it could be exploited. So I'm glad to see that. Says, quote, the United States cannot allow malign ownership bids of American assets by China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea to undermine the efforts of our farmers whose hard work feeds and fuels our communities, especially as we witness the devastating impact of a supply chain crisis. The United States cannot cede any ownership of our food supply to those who do not share our security interests, unquote. Stephanie continued. Yeah, basically, if you're not aligned with America, you don't need to, you don't need to cede any ownership of our food supply. And that's I mean, that's really straight up. You know, you got to be aligned. You know, if your vision doesn't match the vision of the American citizens, you don't need to be, you need to touch our food or our food sources. The bill specifically would keep China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea from being able to buy American agriculture companies. Wow. Citing the countries as quote unquote prohibited. It also lists biotechnology and agriculture as critical infrastructure. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk of infrastructure the past couple of years, but I would say, biotechnology and agriculture, that's critical infrastructure also. I mean, we need to continue to find ways to, I guess, to increase or continue to increase our production of foods. Uh, this bill, like I said, it supposedly they say it keeps China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea from being able to buy American agriculture companies. It sounds good in theory, but here's my problem. Not all of our adversaries are from China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, if you know what I mean. Somehow, you ever seen a household that everything's going fine, but there's that one member in the household that's kind of disloyal? That's what I'm seeing here. So you have people that are out of our countries, let's say, that are outside of the household of America, of the United States, like China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. Naturally, you would think that they would want to exploit um, a weakness in America and take advantage of our food sources, right? But what about the disloyal person in the household or that lives in the household? If you know where I'm going, what about them? Because to me, those are the most dangerous. You know, I hate to say it, but in most households, there's always a sellout somewhere. And without saying any names, we may already know who that is if you've been doing any research at all. If you've been alive more than, let's say, 15 years of your life, you know who the sellouts are. So those are the ones I'm most concerned about. And maybe they are too. They just can't say it. But I like, if this is legitimate, I like where it's going. I understand. It says, in addition, the proposed legislation includes a provision that would make the Secretary of Agriculture a member of the U.S. Committee on Foreign Investment and would require reporting from the Secretary on the risk of quote unquote foreign purchases of companies in the agricultural sector. I mean, yeah, I mean, there is a history recently of foreign companies, purchasing either agriculture, companies in the U.S., purchasing farmland, whatever it may be. Yeah, there's definitely a history of that. I mean, think about it. If we're having a severe food shortage our let's say our corn and wheat or whatever, or meat for that matter, is low, but you have certain companies coming over buying up the farmland or buying up companies that, you know, produce food. That's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. Because if they control that land or those particular companies, then what are the people in the United States? What are we left with? Because if they own it, they can do whatever they want to do. They can shut it down. They could burn it down. They could ship all the food or export all the food back to their countries. Who knows what they can do? That's just my opinion on that, though. That's just my opinion. Quote, adversarial nations like China continue to threaten our homeland using tactics like buying American agriculture companies and stealing agriculture research to undermine our economy. Washington must realize that agriculture security in national security, and we have a duty to protect our food supply or those who produce it. I'm proud to work with Representative Stefanik to draw attention to this critical threat and seek to defend American agriculture, unquote, Crawford told Fox News Digital. So, yeah, I'm glad to see some people are looking into it because people are coming up here just buying up. It's almost like the real estate market. I mean, and I have nothing against real estate market to a certain extent, but you have once an investor sees, land or houses that they can invest in and just go buy all of them up, they'll do it. And I don't necessarily have, you know, too much against that. I know a lot of people in the real estate industry, and that's it's not like it's illegal to a certain extent. So I don't have a problem with that. But I would say the food sources, um, and buying American agriculture companies and stealing agriculture research affects the people a lot more than someone going to a particular city buying 7 houses, 10 houses, or buying an apartment community, because that's going to happen regardless. Like, that's pretty much what real estate is there for, to buy and sell. But I love where they're going with this, and from a prepper perspective, it's a good thing if it's legit and if it goes through. So yeah, what do you all think about that? They're actually trying to protect our food. The issue of food security has become a national problem amid the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, which has led to global food shortages. Republican senators have warned that Russia is using food manipulation as a weapon in its deadly invasion of Ukraine and are working with Ukrainian leaders to turn attention to the deteriorating global food security crisis. So yeah, not just the United States, but all over the world. Um, I can say that, there were some signs there even before Russia invaded Ukraine. There were some signs there. We all know it. So to say that's the main factor, I would, I would disagree with that. I would wholeheartedly disagree with that. That is the main factor. But that's just me. What do you all think? Do you think Russia invading Ukraine is the main factor? Is it a small factor? Were there signs there before, or were there factors evident before the invasion? Let me know what you think in the comments. So yeah, that's wow, that's that I'm just happy someone's actually saying something about it, to be honest with you. Uh Senator Joni Ernst, Republican Iowa, has slammed Russia for using food as a quote unquote quiet weapon aimed to starve civilians and force Ukraine to surrender to its army. In addition, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem recently echoed that, quote, food security is national security, unquote. Yeah, I love the quote there. And it's true. Food security is national security. Because no matter what else we have, if we don't have food, it's almost what's the point? And I love the quote that Joni Ernst used: quiet weapon. Quiet weapon. Yes, food is a quiet weapon. So I love that. Goes on to say, quote, Americans deserve to have their leaders treat disruptions in our food system, from foreign interference to fires to shortages, with concern, said Noam. Yeah, it's a huge concern. We put so much focus on other things and we kind of put food, in the background. Or we throw food, we kind of brush it under the rug. But all these other things going on right now in the country and the world, I tell you, if we don't have food, does anything else really matter? If everyone's starving, does anything else really matter at that point? I mean, if we're starving and we're hungry, certain decisions made by the Supreme Court doesn't really matter at that point. Just being honest with you, who's in office or who's in leadership doesn't really matter at that point if we don't have food. Now, a lot of that has to do with who's in leadership, but that's just my opinion on that. But yeah, what do you all think? I mean, it's our food sources are being attacked, in my opinion, in multiple ways. I mean, they're attacking us with prices because of inflation. Whatever the reason is, there's inflation. Most people say it's because of a war. Some people say that inflation was on the rise before Russia invaded Ukraine, which there is evidence that there was, inflation and food shortages before then. But they are attacking our food source. Uh, they're attacking it with, basically with cattle. Let's say a few weeks ago, it was reported that thousands of cattle died from heat or intense heat out in Kansas or in the U.S. Um, People questioned it, but regardless of how it happened, there are thousands or tens of thousands of cattle that died. That means that's meat that's not going to go on someone's table. That's meat that's not going to go into some restaurant. And also another way they're getting us, not only by price, inflation, not only by attacking the cattle source or the meat source, but also through, I would say, disease and reported being reported. Look at this here. According to NBC News, one dead, 22 hospitalized in new Listeria outbreak with no known origin, CDC says. So not only are they getting you with inflation, not only are they getting us by something happening, maybe the heat killing all the cattle, but also disease. Now, these articles, like I said, is real hard to determine what's true and what's not because most media outlets either lean one way or the other way. There's never any neutrality, any neutral ground. It says those who have fallen ill reside in 10 U.S. states, but the majority of them live in or travel to Florida about a month before they got sick. So look like they're blaming this on Florida. It says nearly 24 people have been sickened with Listeria and one has died, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which said that the source for the outbreak has not been identified. So we know that there's an outbreak, but we don't know how. And supposedly it's linked back to Florida. One of those sickened 22 people were hospitalized. It says of those sickened, 22 people were hospitalized and one person died, the CDC said. Those who have fallen ill reside in 10 states, but the majority of them live or traveled to Florida about a month before they got sick, according to CDC. Hmm. Symptoms usually start within 2 weeks after someone eats food contaminated with Listeria. People can experience fever, muscle aches, headaches, loss of balance, and other symptoms. While the CDC has not identified the specific food item that might be spreading the deadly bacteria, foods that are often culprits for Listeria outbreaks are soft cheese, raw sprouts, melons, lunch meats, pates, hot dogs, smoked fish, and unpasteurized milk. I mean, those. I'm trying to figure out how they linking it back to Florida. I guess what they said because the people had traveled to Florida recently. Um, I don't know. That could be a coincidence. I mean, but these products that they just named here are found everywhere in every state. So I don't know where the Florida part comes in, other than the people. They say that people traveled to Florida at some point recently before they were diagnosed. People at a higher risk from Listeria infection include the elderly, people with weakened immune systems, or chronic diseases, pregnant women, and newborns. People with weakened immune systems. Hmm. When I see those three words there, weakened immune systems, my mind just kind of went in different places. Why would their immune systems be weakened? But I'm not going to speak on that right now if you know where I'm going. Pregnant women with Listeria typically experience only fever and other flu-like symptoms like fatigue and muscle aches, but an infection can lead to miscarriage, stillbirth, premature delivery, or complications after the baby is born. I'll be honest with you, isn't that kind of what certain people want right now? Miscarriage, stillbirth, premature delivery. I mean, mm, I guess I'll leave that alone. That'll be on another channel, another video, but I mean, it kind of fits into what's going on right now. Kind of. The CDC is urging healthcare providers to report listeriosis illnesses to their health department. Those experiencing symptoms of listeria should write down as much as they can remember about what they ate the month before they got sick. Yeah, I mean, like I said, that this is just another way that there's going to be a food shortage, and it's really sad. It's like how many different ways are there going to be food shortages? You know, war, so they say, which caused inflation, even though that we know there's inflation before. That big thing that's been going on for the past couple of years, they're saying that caused some of the inflation. Um, and now this, then we have, you know, certain food processing plants that have been burned down. I'm thinking there's like over 90, almost 100 food processing plants that have actually been burned down within the past year or two. So I don't know. What do you all think? Like, what is the resolve to all of this? In the comments, please let me know what you think the resolve is to all of this that's going on right now. And what are you doing to prepare for it? As I said, every week, if you could spend an extra $5 on something in the store, what would that extra $5 go towards? Would it be canned goods? I would say meat. I'm not for sure exactly what meat you can get for $5 right now. I mean, some places still sell it by the pound. So especially at a meat market, where you can give me like a quarter pound or whatever, or a tenth of a pound or whatever, because $5 is not going to get a whole lot of meat unless it's like lunch meat. But that's not the best meat to go after. But could be water. Um, what would you spend that extra $5 on? Think about that and then put action behind it. Because for those of us who buy coffee, you know, who buy basically there are other things we buy during the course of the week that we probably don't need. Most of us, we need to kind of pay more attention or focus more on the things we do need right now, like food. Those who have babies, baby formula, you know, and gas. See, things are getting back real basic right now. Forget all the luxury things. Things are getting back real basic. My mom and dad used to always tell me, well, first of all, I didn't get a lot of things growing up because that wasn't the goal of my parents. You know, my parents, my dad worked, my mom was a housewife, and their goal was to provide the three: food, clothes, shelter. And after all the years and decades of having all the luxury items, all the non-essentials, it's like it's getting back to the essentials: food, clothes, shelter. Even with shelter, in my area, I see many people actually starting to kind of merge and live together to cut costs. That's something else that's happening. I don't know if it's by plan or by design, but that's something else that's starting to happen. But it's getting back to the essentials. And I hope we enjoy living the luxurious life, you know, spending the extra $30 a week at Starbucks, spending an extra, $50 on a pair of shoes, whatever. I hope you enjoyed it because those times are they're looking pretty bleak right now. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know what you continue to do to prep. And as always, please share, subscribe, like. Likes help so we can get the message out to everyone, especially our prepper community, the families out there who are, don't know what to do. They're kind of lost right now. People who actually don't watch the news, maybe they watch YouTube, but they may not watch the news, or for those who are actually watching too much news and they're only hearing it from one perspective, they need to hear it from a different perspective, right? So that helps us get all of this out. And as always, get ready, stay ready. God bless.